Hi, Alan Stratton from Woodturned. The project for this video will be this vase, closed form, small hole with a Celtic knot on in the middle of it. This is a 3-lobe Celtic knot. I know the pen turners like to do 4-lobe because they can and it's easy, but can't let them have all the fun. So I actually do a Zoom demo on Celtic knots in larger objects like a spindle or a larger one like this vase. But I decided to do it in this segmented piece for this demonstration. Now the video will focus on the Celtic knot portion, but additional features of this vase are a 2-layer segmented bottom. The other layer is inset into the first one, and that center layer has a fiberglass layer embedded in it so that there's no way that this bottom ring will crack and spoil the whole vase. The top, because I am wary of large horizontal surfaces in a single ring, is also inset so that it bricklays out and supports itself quite nicely. But the focus on this one, as I said, will be the Celtic knot. So let's turn this Celtic knot vase. I made a bunch of segmented rings from cherry. I am not showing that process completely in this video, but will show more again in another video. With rings already surfaced, gluing them together goes very quickly. They only need a couple of minutes to set, enough to go on to the next one. This stack is for the bottom set of rings. I did the same for a top section and a middle section. The middle section will contain the Celtic knot. Each section is on its own threaded wood faceplate, since I need to take them on and off quite a few times. I do not want any extra rings in that section, just to keep things simple and in case I have to do it over, heaven forbid. Now I can focus on cutting the Celtic knot. This will be the first cut. I have hot melt glued some indexing pieces to the section and adjusted my jig for a good angle. I do not know the angle, but it looks good. Do not copy this jig since I need to remake it for a larger range of angles. I am careful to set the ring section to my first rotational angle, then make the cut. For the second side of the first cut, I put a spacer between the jig and the faceplate. The spacer accounts for the amount of wood I need to slice out, but adjusted for saw curves. Then return it to the same angle as before. Then make the cut, being careful to keep my fingers and arms out of danger. Now to glue it back together again with 30-minute epoxy. I have prepared wood to replace the cut exactly. Some masking tape will hopefully protect my indexing pieces from the epoxy. Then somehow manage to slather epoxy on all 4 cut sides and put it together again. My indexing pins help to realign the 2 split sections and the replacement wood exactly. Finally, add some weight to squeeze everything together again. It turns out the epoxy got on one of my indexing pins and I had to replace it. Now for slice number 2 of 3. Since this is segmented, I can use the segments to indicate the rotation for this slice. If it were solid, I would have made indexing marks on the lathe before any sawing. I have to remember to remove the spacer between the faceplate and the jig. Just like last time, move the spacer to between the faceplate and the jig, replace the cutoff section with the indexing pins, and ensure that I am at the right rotation for this cut. Second chance to mix up some epoxy. A gram scale helps to make the portions exact. The 30-minute epoxy gives me plenty of time to thoroughly mix the batch. Disposable food service gloves are essential to this messy process. Now for slice number 3 of 3. The only thing that is different is the angle of rotation of the faceplate. The jig angle has been locked at the same angle for the entire time. I do not plan to interject another process until the Celtic knot section is at least glued up. This was a 3-lobe Celtic knot. I could do any number of lobes by varying the rotational angle. My 3 vase sections now pose for a selfie. At left is the top section with a smaller ring tapered into a larger ring. This gives a lot of support for a section that will be mostly horizontal. In the middle is the glued up Celtic knot section. Right now it is pretty ugly, but it will get a makeover very soon. At right is the bottom section. At very bottom, 2 rings are tapered together like the top ring, plus the very middle ring has a layer of fiberglass epoxied at the middle, kind of like plywood. This base will never crack. Now I can do some serious lathe work. The middle section and the top section are pressed together with the top section mounted to a threaded live center. This way I can turn them together. This helps me visualize the curve more easily. Then I realize I should be using the bottom section here. Not a problem, but I should have marked the faceplates better. With my large bowl gouge, I can carefully remove all the corners and extra wood from the rings. This is not the final cut, but will be enough to indicate the basic shape and dimensions. Now I have separated the sections and mounted the bottom section to the lathe spindle. With the exterior defined, I can remove the extra wood from the interior. My large box scraper does a great job of this. The wood streams out almost like it is wet wood. With the exterior defined, it is easy to estimate the wall thickness. Since this is only the bottom section, I am not doing a deep hollowing job. This is easy. The last thing is to ensure the top side is nice and flat with my sanding board. Now for a similar job for the Celtic section. I measured the bottom interior diameter and transfer this to the mating ring. Then, first with a box scraper, I can remove the excess interior wood. Since this section is more curved than the bottom, I finish up with a round nose scraper. But I am not trying for total perfection. Near the spindle is the top. I'll work on that more later. Then sand the rightmost ring before gluing these 2 sections together. With that glue dry, I can finish off the top interior of the Celtic section that was difficult from the other side earlier. Then check the top with my sanding board. Now the top rings are on the lathe. I only need a bit of hollow to complete the interior hollow. Then check the surface with my sanding board and glue it to the rest of the vase. The complete vase is ready now for final exterior work. A cone on the live center provides insurance while I trim the vase for its final look. The final cuts are shear cuts, removing small streams of shavings. This is important for a good surface, especially where the intersection woods come. The differences in wood density make shear cutting essential. After thoroughly sanding my vase, I'm spraying it with rattle can lacquer. After the initial layers, I wet sanded with water and 400 grit wet dry sandpaper, being very careful not to sand through the lacquer. This removed the initial orange peel, then more lacquer layers for a deeper finish look. But I am not finished quite yet. There is still the bottom faceplate. After sawing off the faceplate at the bandsaw, I have mounted the vase in my donut chuck I described in a recent video. Masking tape protects the finished surface while I clean up the foot. After sanding, I finished the bottom with shellac. After a couple of days for the lacquer to dry thoroughly, I am buffing the vase with Tripoli, white diamond, and carnauba wax. There it is now, my vase with a triple lobe Celtic knot. Celtic knots are a nice addition to my tool chest. I cannot leave them only to pen turners. Plus, I can do any number of lobes and angles. It is a great look, and I can provide a remote demonstration to clubs on both spindle and vessel Celtic knots. Please give this video a thumbs up, subscribe on my website, and tell your friends. I appreciate your comments and questions. Every week I make a new wood turning video and add it to my website. Please wear your full face shield for safety anytime the lathe is running. It is your last line of defense. I will see you next week with another wood turning video.